Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Take Five, the podcast where we pick a cinema legend and take 5 of their films to highlight their excellence and range. My name is Austin Luger.
My name's Ray Martindale.
And today we are starting a new 5. As we announced on Wednesday's show, we are covering the films of Richard Linklater. Today we are doing Slacker, then we're doing Dazed and Confused, Before Sunrise, School of Rock, and then Boyhood. And I'm excited to talk about Slacker.
Oh, God.
Slacker is a film...
Go ahead.
It's
a film.
Are you excited?
I'm really excited to see how you're going to summarize. Actually, I am. I'm really excited.
I'm glad that we start off on the
It's
same
a film,
page.
period. That's it. Okay.
So, Slacker, in case you haven't seen it, this is often seen as Richard Linklater's first film, although technically, apparently, he made another feature-length film that I don't think it played anywhere, but it's a bonus feature on the Slacker DVD, which I've not watched yet. Slacker is an experimental film that takes place in Austin, Texas during one day, and starting with a man taking a cab away from the bus station, we just follow a series of strange and odd conversations as we kind of jump from person to person, basically anyone who passes by someone else or as a new kind of interest to the camera. We're not going to follow that person. And, you know, there's the campaign in Austin, Texas called Keep Austin Weird. It's kind of to avoid having too many chains come into the thing. This is the weird that they're talking about.
Yeah.
This is Austin, Texas.
Louisville has the same
its
thing.
Oddest.
Yeah, keep Louisville weird.
And, yeah, it really, there is no plot beyond that. It is just time and over 100 different people talking. Almost everyone's talking at each other, which I think is really curious. It's not like a back and forth.
You said conversations. They're not really conversations.
It's
typically
crazy monologues.
Yeah, typically.
With topics that range from being concerned that the TV is psychically influencing us. A lot of people have lots of thoughts on presidential assassinations.
Yeah.
People are talking about how unemployed they are. Talk about art. Talk about quantum realities. Talk about whether or not they can get into this club tonight.
I liked, if I liked anyone, I kind of like the guy that came from his stepdad's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was just, he had a lot of, he was the philosopher of the group.
This is a guy, he looks like he slept in his suit.
Yeah.
He's just angry. And
He hates his stepdad. He's
he
glad
really
he's
hates
dead.
his stepdad. And I love the point when he's being interviewed by just a random reporter, like trying to do a man on the street thing from the local news. And they just go, "Did you vote in the election?" Hell no, man!
No.
I got less important things to do.
Yeah, I got less important things to do. It's a good line. And the movie had good lines in it, but this movie, okay, so this is kind of interesting because it probably won't happen again on the podcast, but this will be the first time where we have disagreed on a film and back-to-back
Yeah, last
podcast.
week we did Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange.
Not a fan.
Not a fan of Clockwork Orange. Now, Austin's not a fan of Clockwork Orange. That's true. I am less of a fan of Slacker by comparison, and quite simply, it's why we talked about what we talked about earlier. This idea that this is an experimental film, sort of about nothing, and that being the point, I don't think excuses its inability to connect with me or really with anybody. It's hard to call something an experiment when the experiment is not experimenting.
I think it is experimenting on a couple of things.
Okay, well, regardless, we'll get into that. We'll get into that, but I'm not going to fault the production value of the film. I mean, the boom mic will be your friend a couple times in this. You'll see him pop in, wave to him when you see him.
Yeah, this movie's made for about $12.50.
Yeah,
That's no point in that.
I get all that, and Richard Linklater is going to go on, and he's going to do a lot of great films. But there were the technical issues that bothered me the most. Is I thought most of the actors in the movie were terrible.
I had one that I hated.
Yeah, and including Richard Linklater.
Yes, he is the opening guy.
He's the first guy.
He does the dumbest little monologue about the choices we take.
Yeah.
And the taxi driver does not care.
Well, and it was such a theatrical like type of monologue.
Yeah.
I thought it experimented technically a lot. Like, if you like tracking shots, this is going to be your favorite movie of all time. But it experimented in those type of ways that film students always want to experiment with. It never really went outside of that. You know, if you're a 20-year-old, 21-year-old wet behind the ears at film school, you're going to love a movie because of its tracking shots. You're going to love the way it tells its story a la P.T. Anderson. Like, you know, small hallways open up to something else, car drives away, we follow the other car that passes by, and then we continue the shot. All those ways that you sort of overinflate and overemphasize and otherwise fill in the cracks and crevices than the warts that movies actually do have. And I think that happened with Quentin Tarantino quite a bit. As well, because people were so in love with the technicality and the style of it. Actors are called actors. They're there to create action, and action is a device to move plot. If you don't have plot, then you don't have actors, you don't have anything. Nothing matters, so there is never a point in actually watching any of this. So that makes it a bad movie. Good effort, good experiment, good whatever, but with the lack of story and plot, it is a waste of time to watch the movie. I mean, just unless it's for a technical reason and you're trying to do something that it may have done, I see no reason to ever watch this film.
I'm a fan of this film. I've watched it now a couple of times, and while this is not my favorite Richard Linklater film in the slightest, not even my favorite one of his where people just walk around talking. Those are coming up. Yeah. But to me, this one really kind of nails a place and tone. And while Richard Linklater is actually almost infamously known for not being a very visual director, people actually don't like that they can't identify a Linklater scene based on its camera movement. This is his showiest. And I think that is a lot of fun in this one because you're dealing with people who, the way they operate, I mean, no one is employed in this. And everyone is moving at such a strange pace with no powerful interest. They're going to go do their errand, they're going to go to the thing, they're going to go see a friend. But part of the reason the charm of this works for me is because these are people who all enjoy listening. So when you have a crazy person follow you for blocks and blocks, telling you about how we've been to Mars since the 60s, he has no real interest to tell him to go away, because right now this is fine. And almost if it was an overly edited film, in a way just kind of quick cuts, that would not portray their lives as well. Tracking shots, I guess I've often always kind of been for really kind of cool, stylish, extravagant moments, the Goodfellas scene and whatnot. Yeah. This just kind of shows almost laziness more than anything else. And it is fun for me to watch the laziness because what they're talking about is so routinely crazy but so interesting that I feel part of their group, even though I am a more ambitious person than these people. By the sheer nature that I'm doing a podcast right now, this is already more than anyone does in the film. But it's a joy to listen to these people because everyone has a strange way of talking. There are some surprises in where it's going. We talk about bad actors. To me, the worst actor still has a cool story moment. It's the older man whose house is being robbed. Mm-hmm. That guy's terrible. I think that guy's really bad. Mm. But I like how quickly he turns it around on the robber and kind of befriends the robber. And then you kind of keep realizing that he's insane as the whole conversation keeps going on. It's not just a nice little Tuesday with Morrie lesson. It's more of he has dementia.
Well, I think it's interesting you bring up that scene because that scene was the closest the movie ever came to actually having any type of story in it.
Yeah.
That was actually a moment where there was a little something happening there.
There was a gun in the scene.
Yeah, there was a gun in the scene, at least. and that guy at the very least was, palavering about the places he'd gone, the places he would go, whether or not it's true or not. We got a sense of like forward momentum with him that doesn't exist with any of the other characters. The only thing, you're right. I think there's a reason why tracking shots are used for more extravagant moments. It's quite simply to give you. Because the tracking shot's going to continually surprise you and give you interesting stuff to look at. That's not
draw attention to
it. That's not necessarily what this movie does. It just has tracking shots to have them, and I think part of that was, from a stylistic perspective, part of it was to present stuff as is and keep it real. Where the camera's going to point and go in each scene and which character you're going to follow after that is the most exciting stuff in the film. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because that means you're looking for the person to end this scene to move on to the next.
We need like a phrase for that, because like whenever I listen to like songs on shuffle, they're all songs that I like. I want to know what the next one is. I get annoyed to wait 3 minutes to know what the next one is.
Yeah, no, it is kind of like that, and you're going to always be leaning forward by around the 30-minute mark, 30-minute mark, because that's when you're going to realize that what you're in for. If you've never heard of the film, never seen the film, it starts like you're going to follow this guy from the bus station.
Yeah.
And then someone gets run over by a car, and then some guy gets arrested for a crime, like you start to, and then he plays a weird like home video movie. You start like those are the most interesting scenes, because it's like, oh crap, what's happening here? Yeah. There's something. These threads are all going to come together, and then like by the time you see the guy following the guy down the street talking about we've been on the moon since before. That's when you start to realize, oh yeah, wait, no, none of that mattered. I think it's weird. It's because I feel like the movie is kind of top heavy in that regard, because I feel like that stuff's more interesting almost earlier, and then it gets more boring later.
I think the last 10 minutes have also like a nature plot, because this feels more like now it's nighttime, and you're following some young people just like without to go to a band. Like bouncing around kind of that environment kind of felt more. It had a smaller location, I guess, of what it was doing, and then also I think it's a really curious ending, and I'm not even sure that's what Linklater meant, but. They find some kids find a video camera and just kind of film what they're doing, and that must feel like a commentary on the movie you're watching, because you don't hear the audio in that, but it's already more stylistic and captures a tone that nothing
in the film.
Yeah, that actually shows like happiness, like quick cuts, cool shots. Then the movie like hysterically doesn't end there. Then it goes back to a couple more scenes.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, that's not like.
But then they do take a camera at the end again. So there are two different cameras used.
People actually making something.
Yeah.
Another example of someone making something, and it's one of the funniest scenes to me, because it's just a great example of like the pretentiousness you see in colleges. It's when they have the woman who is making a display of the menstrual cycle. In the front yard, like all these jars and whatnot, and she is the most like delightfully annoying to me, because
she's the best actor in the movie. I think
she was funny.
Yeah, I think she's the best actor in the movie.
I had my biggest laugh when her friend came up to her and said, "Hey, sorry I'm late." She goes, "It's okay, time doesn't exist."
Yeah, time doesn't exist. Yeah. And it doesn't exist for them, because they don't do anything with their lives. And I thought
actually, no one's on time ever for the movie, because they missed the movie that this couple tries to see. Like no one can ever make anything on time.
Yeah, that's true. That does happen. That does happen a lot in the film. I was thinking somewhere around the halfway mark, like, okay, so what am I missing? Like, trying to look for something more here, and I thought maybe this is meta in the sense that. Okay, so they're slackers. They're not going anywhere with their lives, so you're going to watch a movie where they don't do anything, therefore you are a slacker. You're not accomplishing anything by watching this film. And I thought that for a second. I thought, even if that's true, you're literally saying I'm watching a movie that sucks. Like, that has to be the caveat. Or a movie that it's not a movie. I mean, a film. I feel like a movie has to have a story. I mean, it needs more than a camera and tricky. It needs. They're not really acting if they're not creating action. Like that, I just don't.
I don't know if you remember this, but it was a couple years ago. I was working on a play, and I gave you the first draft, and your major note was, Austin, nothing happens in it. You said it's good, but there's no plot in this play.
Yeah, that's right. Like, you know, you need to have like an inciting incident. No, I'm not going to go into it, but there's nothing. I mean, there are occasionally in these vignettes, maybe 3 or 4 out of the 30 of them, there may be a moment where some conflict arises, but 90% of the time there isn't.
It's true, but there's always like there's always an interesting interplay between the characters who are talking.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Occasionally the dialogue is fun, but it's ultimately fruitless if it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. That's why I'm going to keep coming back to that at the end of the day. It's the type of experimental film only young students or young filmmakers can think to make, because only they would say it doesn't need a plot.
Yeah.
No one after that would say that. No, but we're going to focus on those technical elements, like, you know, because the tracking shots are really neat. Again, and who you follow is really neat. And I will say it does take a deft hand for some of this stuff because there are times where the movie seems like it's going to try to trick you into thinking there's going to be a plot. For instance, the next person that passes us will be dead in a fortnight. As the dude walks by, and then we follow that guy from there.
He was so chipper, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I laughed because I knew that's not going to go anywhere. But again, and then of course the beginning when the woman gets hit by the car, there are parts where you start to think that's going to happen, and it's almost kind of funny by the end of it.
Well, I mean, so many of the stories in this are also exciting stories that do have plots, but didn't happen to them. Like, I remember in the first time the boom mic comes in, is that couple on the street. This woman kind of comes by, who's a friend of theirs, and just tells us, like, exciting story about what the cops were doing this morning. She wasn't there. She kind of, like, witnessed part of it.
That's a good point.
She didn't do anything herself today.
No, that's right. And that they interrupted that couple that seemed like they were maybe going to start hitting it off, and then she comes up and interrupts them. So, like, that is a semblance of a conflict. like you know, like there's something there.
There was a really, because I mean, a lot of this movie is often just kind of different degrees of crazy people talking to people, but it's always kind of very much tolerated. The one where like it is, I feel there's actual tension in the room, and I think Linklater did this on purpose because it's the most confined, is when the woman's in the bookstore, and this guy comes up to her and says, "Can we find anything?" No. Oh, we had this class together back then. And she clearly doesn't remember who he is. And, you know, she goes, "What are you up to?" She goes, "No, not doing much." "What are you up to?" Then he goes, "Oh, you know me, JFK conspiracies." And first off, she doesn't know you. It's hilarious. That you, like, not only, like, it's my thing, and then he just won't stop talking about
well, he goes
JFK
and talks to the mechanic kid
too.
About
but, like,
it, too.
She, like, clearly was, like, being nice, and now clearly wants to leave. But they're stuck like in the small area.
Yeah. There's a they rise, but they don't. Again,
But I think what makes first off, I now feel there is some suspense because this is episode 1 of our Linklater Five. Of the next 4, one of them definitely has a plot. So it was very exciting to see what you think of those coming out, because I think he is absolutely matured as a filmmaker and has taken kind of the ideas of this film and have made them, successful is the wrong word, successful. Because to me, one of the reasons I like Linklater so much is that he has such a wonderful fondness for everybody. And this is a movie where even the craziest person ranting about insanity, he likes them. Like, I think everyone in this movie is seen with a happy lens, and like, is kind of happy that this is a community that exists. These are people all over the place. He likes to celebrate the way we talk to each other and the dumb things we say to each other. So to me, that makes this film also very rewatchable, just because it's not cynical. Like, Linklater is like
what's not anything. I mean,
it's loving.
Yeah, I mean, I could never watch this film again unless I felt like I needed to kill 2 hours. Literally, like my time doesn't matter. Like that's the only way. There's
If you were gonna die tonight, you need to extend the hours.
It's like it's the type of thing where, as like, if I were a professor or something like a college professor to telecommunications, and I would it's the type of project that would probably be the best project I saw all year. Mm-hmm. It would be the type of project I would give an A+, but I would still hate it. Like, it can be both, I think, in that regards. Like, I can respect the youth of Linklater and the beginning of his advancement as an immature spirit into what he ends up becoming. And you can see there's definite evidence here that there's going to be something happening here with this guy. You can't ignore, because if this movie had no technical merits, it would be the worst film ever made. No, seriously. No, that actually wasn't hyperbole.
Wait, that's actually a curious thing, because I was about to mention how this movie hit at a very specific time. This played at Sundance in 1991, whatever. And this was kind of one of the films that really kind of put Sundance on the map. Sex Lies Videotape was like the year before. This was a big one, and because of this film, Kevin Smith made Clerks.
Yes, I did know that.
Yeah, he saw Slacker and goes, that could be a movie, and made Clerks. Mm-hmm. Clerks may have no technical ability.
No, that's true, but it has a plot. Ish.
It has closer to a plot, yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I actually really liked the first Clerks movie, and it has no tracking shots. I think the camera has barely moved in his entire canon still, because he doesn't like.
But it also but it also has characters that you follow. This movie doesn't have that. There is no story in Slacker. There isn't one. It doesn't even have characters. Like, I mean, it has people in it, but actual characters, and they're not presented as characters. They're presented, the people you do see are presented as residents of Austin. So again, no hyperbole. Without its technical merits, it may be the worst film I've ever seen. No, I'm serious.
No. I'm nodding just because your valid points on why you don't like this film are all my exact reasons why I like the film. So, so you go, there's no characters. I'm nodding and smiling, not to be condescending. It's because isn't that awesome?
No, and in a nihilistic type of view, or even an existential one, taking. I mean, it reminds me of like naturalist theater, which was a period in theater that predated the melodramatic romantic period, because there was an idea first originally to we'll put real life on stage with like Chekhov, and then it went further than that, because you had like A Doll's House, and then it moved to like naturalist theater, which was we're basically going to ignore that the audience is there. And it was really boring. So naturally what you got out of that was melodrama, came right after that, and as a counter to that, wow, we're going to have these overbearing stories now, because, art's a pendulum. This is that. I mean, it's a theatrical presentation of that. And I'm not saying the movie doesn't have... Look, it's generated discussion. I mean, there was some debate about calling an audible because I disliked the movie so much. And
you had angry texts.
Yeah, and not watching it. Well, it wasted my time. But I thought that it was culturally significant enough, and it's technically competent enough to where I thought it would generate a good conversation, particularly in the context of Linklater's canon. I do hate the movie. I mean, quite frankly, I do. But I can't not recommend someone watching it once. If you want to play a prank on your friend or something.
Hey, or just come over. I own some Blu-ray, happily, Criterion Edition.
But no, and it is. There's enough happening there that makes it, I think, significant.
Well, I think this is actually maybe our best transition of films we've ever done on this show, because next week is the film Dazed and Confused, which also is plotless, but has characters.
It has characters.
And has arcs. So we will see Linklater progress in that way, and we hope you come back next Friday.
Aristotle would be so pissed off at this film. Slacker.
Yeah.
Plot. Characters. Two most important parts of drama. At the very bottom, sight and sound, okay? Sorry. For all you Aristotle fans out there.
That's why they listen. As you ponder about Aristotle for the next week, you can also follow us on Twitter at the Immortals Pod. You can leave a comment for this show. Let us know if you are pro-slacker, anti-slacker. Obviously, just don't be a slacker. Go to the website and leave a comment at theartofwar.com about this episode or any episode. While you're there, you can check out the other podcasts on the network, which include The Immortals, which, you know what it is now. This week, we reviewed Vagabond and a show that Eric is a slacker as I am to America's Got Talent. Oh boy. So enjoy that episode from yesterday. And Ad Absurdum just had a new episode. And the March episode is all about The Dark Knight Rises. So that's going to be fun.
It's a good movie.
It is. And where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me at, where can they find me? Constant Diversion is my YouTube channel. I'm now 17 minutes officially, and I don't know when the time this podcast comes out. Hopefully it'll be done. The Last of Us video. So it is moving forward. I just noticed we're at 26 minutes. Does that make us slackers?
Yeah.
For ending a few minutes early?
Yeah.
How appropriate.
2001 was 40. We're fine.
Okay.
All right, everybody. We will catch you all next time. I'm Austin.
I'm Eric.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Hi. Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions for a project we're working on?
Sure.
So, did you vote in the most recent election?
Hell no. Got less important things to do.
What do you do to earn a living?
You mean work? To hell with the kind of work you have to do to earn a living. All it does is fill the bellies of the pigs who exploit us. Hey, look at me. I'm making it. I may live badly, but at least I don't have to work to do it.
What would it take for you to get a job?
Hey, I'll get a job when I hear the true call.
True call.
You know, the true call. I know when I hear it.
Anything else you want to?
Yeah, there's something else. To all you workers out there, every single commodity you produce is a piece of your own death.
What was your relationship like with your...
End of interview.